It's been a minute since I've come on here to do a Cooking with A La Arvy session. So join me again for another one of my episodes. So on today's menu, I will be making shepherd's pie, or what I call a unique version of shepherd's pie. And this shepherd's pie is going to include some sweet potato. So stay tuned to see what's next. All right. Here I had about, I don't know, I think it was about 8 small sweet potatoes that I peeled and boiled and then unsquashed. Okay. I didn't put any salt in the water because I'm seasoning it up here. So I squashed it up. I boiled it to the point where it squashed it up really good. So that's why I'm using the fork. And I put a little bit of ranch dressing in there. And I'm going to add a little A La Arvy seasoning to that right now. And then this part will be ready for what comes next. Yep, A La Arvy seasoning. And voila. So I'm going to stir this up and show you what's next. Next up, we have 4 cups of mashed potato flakes here. And I like to use the brand, the Idaho one. I like it, it works really well for me. Anyway, then I have some mild cheddar cheese here. Of course, the spray to spray the pans. A little bit of collard greens, Ragu sauce, the tomato, garlic, and onion sauce. This is some almond milk, about 2 cups of almond milk in this one. Then in the pot here, I have 6 cups of water. And what else? And then I have butter. I have about 8 tablespoons of butter, or 1 stick of margarine, or 1 stick of butter. That's what I'm going to put in there to boil. This is preparation for the regular mashed potatoes. So then I'm going to show you what I do next after I do that. So in this pot, let me go ahead and do that right now, actually. I'm going to add the almond milk. And then I'm going to add this stick of butter. Okay, I need my hand. So I added the stick of butter in there along with the milk and the water. Now I'm going to turn this on high and let this, where's my spoon? And let this boil. Once it comes to a rapid boil. Okay, there we go. So once it comes to a rapid boil, then I will actually remove it from the heat and add my flakes, and I'm going to stir my flakes in with a fork, okay? So while this is doing this, let me go ahead and prepare the other stuff. This is the ground turkey that I'm going to be using for today. All right, if you've been cooking with me for a while, you know that I always add some lemon juice to this to sort of kind of, oh, why is it all blurry? There we go. To keep it from, being a little bit too, what we call in the island, rice. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and poke some holes there. Make sure this lemon juice soaks in a bit. And add some more lemon juice, actually. And then I'm going to take that pad thing on the bottom of here, actually, before I add some more lemon juice. All right, I removed this pad that soaks up all the moisture and all of those things, and I'm gonna now add some more of that lemon juice. All right, yeah, so put the lemon juice in there. I like to sort of kind of chop it up a little bit with a knife so it could saturate in there before I go to the next step. All right, and there we go. Next step. This is getting ready to the butter is melting, and it's getting ready to start boiling soon. While this is doing this pot's ready, and it's going to be time to put in. This is when you put your onions and all of those things in your pot, and then followed by this. Okay, and then you have to cook that. So I'll be back. So now this has boiled, the butter is melted. Time to turn the stove off. And then I'm going to use the fork and get this in there all mashed up. So I've taken it off the stove, and now I'm using the fork to get this done. All right, this is finished. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the sweet potato to that. All right, added it in. Now is to stir it on up with the fork. All right, so this part's ready to go. So now we gotta finish this one. And as you see, today I've added fresh herbs instead of my normal frozen herbs because I am out of my frozen herbs. So I have to cut up some more and put some more in the freezer. So I have my herbs, and then I have the ground turkey in here. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water to the bottom of the pot. And then I'm gonna go from here. And by the way, this is sofrito, and I added some sofrito as well, okay? And then I'm gonna go from there. I did not mention is that, of course, I'm gonna add some A La Arvy seasoning here. Make sure you taste it so you can have the flavor that you want before you finish up with this side, okay? All right, so this one's ready. So now to go with this. So now we're gonna add a little bit of water. Let me turn the stove on to a little bit past medium. And then I'm gonna get my spoon, my special spoon. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water in the bottom of that one. All right, I added some water in here. And then while I'm waiting for it to start to sizzle, I'm gonna use this spoon here to continue to break this apart and get it all ready. All right, I need both hands. All right, so this is what it looks like all mashed up. Now waiting for it to start to heat up and start to sizzle, and then I'll show you what I do next. By the way, you wanna cook it, or at least how I do it, is I cook this meat before I add any seasoning to it. I make sure that this meat is fully cooked first, and then I'll add my seasoning after the fact. And while I am waiting for the ground turkey to start to sizzle, I'm coming over here to cut, well, this is my pepper plant here, but I'm gonna come over here to cut some of this basil off of this plant right here. Got my basil. Now let's get over here to see if this thing has started. All right, it's starting to do a little something. Okay, when it's half cooked, which it is right now, it's half cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and add my collard greens. Added a little bit more water, and now I'm gonna stir around this collard greens in here. All right, now I'm gonna cover this, let it cook for a little bit, and then I'm gonna show you what's next. Nice. All right, it's cooking, and it's cooking the collards. It's almost time for me to put the seasoning in. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and spray the bottom of these. I'm making a small one for my son, and then one for the house. So go ahead and get the bottom of these sprayed in preparation for when it's ready. All right, so I have the mild sliced cheddar cheese ready. Of course, you know I chopped up my basil. Well, just kind of shred them apart with my hands. And then I'm going to shred the extra sharp cheddar cheese. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and start shredding these now. One block of cheese done, one more to go. I love this little manual shredder. I don't know why I love it so much, but it is so nice and does it so fast. All right, you see the water is pretty much gone, and you can see that those collards are cooked. The color is different. Time to add some seasoning and then the sauce. All right, now is when you're gonna season this bad boy to taste before adding the sauce. Okay, so make sure you season it to what you want it to taste like, and then you add the sauce, okay? Let me go finish, I need my hands. Right. Seasoned to how I like it. Now it's time to add the ragu. All right, I'll be back. All right, now I'm gonna let this simmer for a little bit. Well, not simmer, I'm gonna let it like boil in for just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay out the shepherd's pie in the layers. You'll see. All right. It's while I'm letting it do a little bit of that, a little more, about maybe, I don't know, 5-10 more minutes more of boiling, sauteing, marinating the works. I'm going to go ahead and start to layer both pans. Starting off with the potatoes, and then you'll see what I do next. All right, the first layer of the potato is in. This potato combo is in. Okay, next is going to be some of this cheese on the bed, the sliced one, on the bed of it. And then from there, I'll show you what I do next. That's what this looks like. All right, next I'm going to put some of this on there. Okay, while I'm getting ready to put this in there, I'm going to put the oven. You can put it on between 350 and 375. I'm doing it on 375. All right, so we have one layer of the potato mixture. We have one layer of the sliced mild cheddar cheese. Then now we have one layer of the turkey, the ground turkey mixture, okay? Next, I'm going to sprinkle some of this basil on the top. So just you can start to see what I'm doing here. I'm doing that. All right, now let me go finish up. So basil's on the top. Now it's time for some of that shredded cheese and then a layer of the potato. All right, so then we have some of that shredded cheese on there. Now it's time to put another layer of the potato mixture. All right, so I put on, so see what it looks like here. So you have the layer potatoes, layer of the ground turkey mixture, and another layer of potatoes. Same thing in this one. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on, I'm gonna put those last of the mild cheddar cheese, the basil on top of them, and top it off with the shredded cheese. All right, I'll be back. Now the final touch, the shredded cheese. And then in the oven it goes. All right, y'all, voila. Now it's time to put it in the oven. And I'm gonna put it in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes. Since I've done 375, it'll probably be more like 15 to 20. But anyway, what I'm looking for is for the cheese to be melted and it to have a little bit of crisp around the end. Okay? Around the edges, rather. All right, so that's them there in the oven. And now let's put the timer on. I'm gonna start off with about 20 minutes. But I'll be checking it periodically. So we'll see. Oh yeah, cheese is melted. I'm just gonna let it get a little bit brown now. All right, they are finished. Now they need to cool before we eat. All right, it's all finished. All right. Yep, one for the house and one for my son. Yep. All right. It's still a little bit hot, so it hasn't fully set, but we hungry over in these parts. So it's time to eat. Bon appetit. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Cooking with A La Arvy. And today I told you I was going to make a unique version of shepherd's pie. So today I made sweet potato shepherd's pie. All right, so until the next time, hope you enjoy. If you try it at home, let me know how it comes out for you. But it's a yummy, y'all. And we're about to go and eat. Scrumptious. All right, y'all, take it easy. Once again, thanks for joining me on another episode on Cooking with A La Arvy. This is Sparkles. Peace.